Arizona's desert boom is turning into a bust. From retirement havens to family suburbs, these 10 cities are watching property values collapse, businesses flee, and residents pack up faster than tumbleweeds in a dust storm. Could your Arizona dream become a ghost town nightmare? Let's start with a place that was once the ultimate party destination, Lake Havasu City. Lake Havasu City used to be the place where college kids went wild and retirees went to relax. The London Bridge, endless boat parties, and year-round sunshine made it Arizona's ultimate playground. But in 2025, those party boats are sitting in empty marinas, and the retirees are packing up their RVs for good. The numbers tell a brutal story. Tourism revenue has plunged by 37% since 2022, according to the Mojave County Tourism Board. Hotel occupancy rates have dropped from 82% to just 51%. You can actually drive down McCulloch Boulevard now without hitting traffic, something that would have been impossible just 3 years ago. The aging population exodus is hitting hardest. Over 4,000 retirees left Lake Havasu in 2024 alone, citing rising healthcare costs and shrinking services. When the major medical center announced cutbacks last fall, it was the final straw for many seniors who'd called this desert oasis home for decades. Main Street tells the story in empty storefronts. The iconic boat dealerships that once lined the waterfront are shuttered. Restaurants that survived the pandemic couldn't survive the tourist drought. Even the London Bridge Resort, a cornerstone of the local economy, laid off 200 employees in March. Housing prices have crashed accordingly. The median home value dropped from $412,000 in 2022 to $328,000 today. That's a 20% nosedive that's left thousands of homeowners underwater on their mortgages. While Lake Havasu struggles with this tourism collapse, another Arizona community is facing a completely different economic disaster as major manufacturers pull out of the state. Casa Grande. Casa Grande was supposed to be Arizona's manufacturing success story. For decades, this desert town between Phoenix and Tucson attracted major employers with cheap land, tax incentives, and a willing workforce. Factories hummed 24/7, producing everything from electronics to automotive parts. But those factory floors are going silent fast. The closures started in 2023 and haven't stopped. Lucid Motors cut 800 jobs at their Casa Grande facility in October. Abbott Laboratories shuttered their medical device plant, eliminating 600 positions. When you drive through the industrial district now, you'll see acre after acre of empty warehouses with 4 lease signs that have been there for months. Unemployment has spiked from 4.2% in 2022 to 11.7% today, according to the Arizona Department of Economic Security. That's nearly triple the state average. For every manufacturing job that disappears, economists estimate 3 service jobs vanish too. The ripple effect is devastating. Downtown Casa Grande looks like a retail graveyard. Vacancy rates on Florence Boulevard hit 43% last quarter. The Walmart that anchored the main shopping center closed in January, taking dozens of smaller businesses with it. Even the McDonald's that served factory workers for 30 years couldn't survive the exodus. People are voting with their feet. Over 2,000 residents moved to the Phoenix metro area in 2024 alone, seeking work in a more diversified economy. School enrollment dropped by 15% as families fled for opportunities elsewhere. Casa Grande's industrial collapse mirrors what's happening to other Arizona communities that bet everything on single industries, especially those depending on the land itself. Wilcox. Wilcox once fed half of Arizona. This southeastern farming community was famous for its apples, corn, and cattle ranches that stretched to the horizon. Drive through Cochise County today, and you'll see a different story written in brown fields and abandoned irrigation systems. The land that made Wilcox prosperous is now turning against it. The drought numbers are staggering. Wilcox has received just 63% of normal rainfall over the past 3 years, according to the National Weather Service. The underground aquifer that farmers have relied on for generations has dropped 42 feet since 2020. Wells that used to hit water at 50 feet now come up dry at 120. Crop failures are mounting. Apple orchards that produced millions of pounds annually are withering. Corn yields dropped by 58% in 2024 compared to the 10-year average. When you can't irrigate, you can't grow. It's that simple. Farm foreclosures tell the human cost. Cochise County recorded 43 agricultural foreclosures in 2024, up from just 8 in 2021. Families who farm the same land for 4 generations are walking away from everything they've built. Main Street Wilcox is collapsing alongside the farms. The agricultural supply stores, equipment dealers, and feed suppliers that form the backbone of the local economy are shuttering. The historic Rex Allen Museum, once a tourist draw, cut its hours due to declining visitors. Even the annual Wings Over Wilcox Birding Festival struggled to attract half its usual attendance. Population has dropped by 12% since 2022 as farm families seek opportunities elsewhere. What happens when the water runs out and the farms disappear? Other Arizona towns built on extracting resources from the earth are learning that same harsh lesson. Bisbee. Bisbee reinvented itself as Arizona's quirky artist haven after the copper mines shut down in the 1970s. This hillside town became a magnet for painters, sculptors, and musicians who transformed old mining buildings into studios and galleries. The bohemian vibe attracted tourists eager to explore authentic Southwestern art culture. But that creative renaissance is crumbling faster than the century-old mine shafts. Art gallery closures are accelerating. Main Street has lost 9 galleries since 2022, including the iconic Belleza Fine Arts Gallery that anchored the Arts District for 15 years. The Bisbee Artists Coalition reports membership dropped from 230 artists in 2021 to just 147 today. Tourism numbers paint a grim picture. Annual visitor counts fell from 87,000 in 2022 to 59,000 last year, according to the Cochise County Tourism Council. Hotel occupancy rates plummeted to 38%, forcing 2 historic inns to close permanently. The infrastructure is literally falling apart. Water main breaks doubled in 2024 as 100-year-old pipes finally give out. The iconic 1,000 steps that tourists love to climb are cracking and unsafe. City officials estimate they need $12 million just for basic repairs, but the tax base keeps shrinking. Young artists are fleeing to Tucson and Phoenix where they can actually make a living. The median age in Bisbee has climbed to 57, up from 49 just 5 years ago. When creative communities lose their young energy, they lose their soul. The artistic exodus from Bisbee reflects broader demographic shifts hitting Arizona communities. But some towns are struggling with entirely different population dynamics tied to their unique histories. Winslow. Winslow made itself famous with a single corner and an Eagles song. Take It Easy put this Route 66 town on the map, drawing thousands of tourists annually to stand on that corner in Winslow, Arizona. But when Interstate 40 bypassed the historic route decades ago, it began a slow strangulation that's finally choking the life out of this desert crossroads. Hotel occupancy tells the brutal story. The historic La Posada Hotel, once Winslow's crown jewel, saw occupancy rates drop from 71% in 2022 to just 43% last year. 3 smaller motels have closed permanently since 2023, unable to survive on the dwindling stream of nostalgic travelers. Restaurant closures are accelerating along Kinsley Avenue. The Falcon Family Restaurant, a local institution for 38 years, shut down in September. Captain Tony's Pizza closed last spring. Even the Route 66 themed diners that survived the interstate bypass are struggling as fewer road trippers make the detour. Railroad job cuts hit the community hard. BNSF Railway eliminated 47 positions at the Winslow Yard in 2024, continuing a decades-long decline that has gutted the town's economic foundation. These were good-paying jobs that supported families and local businesses. The Eagles tourism that once seemed recession-proof is fading fast. Visitor counts at the famous corner dropped by 36% since 2022, according to the Winslow Chamber of Commerce. Younger travelers don't connect with 70s rock nostalgia the way their parents did. Population has declined from 9,400 in 2020 to just under 8,000 today. When your claim to fame becomes a relic, economic survival becomes nearly impossible. But transportation infrastructure changes aren't just devastating historic communities built around old highways and railways. Eloy built its modern economy around keeping people locked up. This Pinal County town became Arizona's prison capital, hosting 4 major correctional facilities that employed thousands and generated millions in local revenue. For decades, incarceration was recession-proof business. But criminal justice reform and budget cuts are dismantling Eloy's economic foundation brick by brick. Correctional job losses started small, but accelerated fast. The Eloy Detention Center laid off 230 employees when it lost its federal contract in 2023. Arizona State Prison Complex, Eloy, cut another 150 positions last year. Core Civic announced plans to reduce staffing by 40% at their remaining facilities, citing declining inmate populations and policy changes. Retail businesses that depended on correctional workers are failing rapidly. The Walmart Supercenter that anchored the town's main shopping area closed in January, citing insufficient customer base. Fast food restaurants, gas stations, and convenience stores that thrived on shift workers buying meals and gas are shuttering one by one. The housing market collapsed alongside the job losses. Median home values dropped from $212,000 in 2022 to $168,000 today, according to Zillow. That's a 21% crash that trapped homeowners who bought during better times. Population decline accelerated in 2024 as families followed jobs elsewhere. School enrollment fell by 18%, forcing the district to close one elementary school and consolidate others. When your entire economy depends on government contracts, you're always one budget decision away from disaster. Other Arizona communities that built their prosperity around federal spending are discovering that same vulnerability, especially those hosting military installations that face uncertain futures. Sierra Vista. Sierra Vista has lived and breathed Fort Huachuca for over a century. This southeastern Arizona city grew up around the historic Army base, which became the center of military intelligence and cybersecurity operations. Military families filled the neighborhoods, defense contractors built careers here, and local businesses thrived on steady government paychecks. But Pentagon budget pressures and base realignment rumors are shaking this community to its core. Fort Huachuca downsizing speculation intensified after the Defense Department's 2024 efficiency review identified the base for potential consolidation. While no official announcement has been made, the rumor mill is driving real economic consequences. Home sales dropped 31% in the past year as military families delay purchases, fearing potential transfers. Civilian contractor layoffs are already happening. Raytheon eliminated 87 positions at their Sierra Vista facility in November. General Dynamics cut 43 jobs from their cybersecurity division. These weren't entry-level positions, but high-paying technical jobs that supported entire families and generated significant local spending. Housing market uncertainty is spreading like wildfire. Real estate agents report that military families are choosing to rent rather than buy, worried about being stuck with homes they can't sell if the base downsizes. New construction permits fell by 54% compared to 2023 levels. The ripple effects reach every corner of the community. School enrollment declined as some military families requested early transfers. Local restaurants and retail stores that depend on base personnel are cutting hours and staff. Even the annual Fort Huachuca Buffalo Soldier Days festival saw attendance drop 22% as uncertainty clouds the community's future. Federal budget decisions don't just impact military towns, though. Communities across Arizona that depend on government spending through different channels are learning the same hard lessons about economic vulnerability. Kingman. Kingman positioned itself perfectly at the crossroads of America. This northwestern Arizona town sits where Interstate 40 meets Highway 93, making it a crucial stop for truckers hauling freight between Los Angeles and everywhere else. For decades, that strategic location guaranteed steady business from gas stations, truck stops, and motels. But shipping patterns are shifting, and Kingman is getting left behind. Trucking industry changes are devastating the local economy. Electric vehicle charging infrastructure development is concentrating along different routes that bypass Kingman entirely. The new Interstate 11 corridor between Phoenix and Las Vegas is pulling traffic away from the traditional east-west flow that built this town. Truck traffic through Kingman dropped by 28% since 2022, according to Arizona Department of Transportation data. Gas station closures tell the story in empty pumps and boarded windows. The Flying J truck stop that employed 47 people closed last summer. Three independent gas stations on Andy Devine Avenue shut down in 2024 as diesel sales plummeted. When truckers don't stop, nobody makes money. Motel vacancy rates hit devastating levels. The historic Route 66 motels that once hosted road trippers and truckers are struggling with 67% vacancy rates. The Days Inn closed permanently in March. Even the newer chain hotels along the interstate are cutting staff and services. Bypass construction projects are delivering the final blow. The planned Interstate 40 improvements will route traffic around Kingman's business district rather than through it. Local officials estimate this could reduce commercial traffic by another 40% once completed. Geographic isolation creates challenges that extend far beyond transportation hubs, affecting even basic services that larger communities take for granted. Globe. Globe sits trapped in the Pinal Mountains, 90 minutes from Phoenix, but a world away from adequate services. This former copper mining town survived the mine closures by becoming a retirement haven for people seeking affordable mountain living. But geographic isolation that once felt peaceful now feels like a prison as essential services disappear one by one. Hospital closure threats loom over the community like storm clouds. Cobry Valley Regional Medical Center, the only hospital serving Globe and surrounding communities, announced potential closure in December after operating at a $15 million annual loss. The nearest emergency room would be 67 miles away in Phoenix. For a town where 38% of residents are over 65, that distance could mean life or death. Doctor shortages are already critical. Globe has just 3 primary care physicians serving over 7,000 residents, according to the Arizona Medical Association. The national standard calls for 1 doctor per 1,000 patients. 2 specialists retired last year without replacement, forcing residents to drive hours for basic medical care. Grocery store shutdowns are creating food deserts in the mountains. The IGA supermarket closed in October, leaving residents with only a Dollar General and a small convenience store. The nearest full-service grocery store is now 34 miles away in Superior. For elderly residents without reliable transportation, getting fresh food has become a major challenge. The elderly population feels increasingly trapped. Fixed incomes can't cover the rising costs of gas for frequent trips to Phoenix for services. Home values have dropped so far that selling and relocating isn't financially viable for many longtime residents. But Globe's struggles with isolation and service collapse aren't unique to small mountain communities. Even larger Arizona cities with more resources and better locations are displaying troubling symptoms of economic decline. Douglas. Douglas thrived as Arizona's gateway to Mexico, where cross-border trade and cultural exchange created prosperity on both sides of the fence. This Cochise County border town hosted bustling maquiladora operations, busy retail districts serving Mexican shoppers, and a port of entry that processed millions of dollars in legitimate commerce daily. But escalating border security measures and shifting trade policies are strangling the economic lifeline that sustained Douglas for generations. Maquiladora closures across the border in Agua Prieta are devastating Douglas workers who commuted daily to Mexican factories. 3 major assembly plants shut down since 2023, eliminating over 800 jobs that supported families on both sides. The ripple effect reaches every Douglas business that depended on those paychecks. Border crossing delays have crippled legitimate commerce. Average wait times increased from 37 minutes in 2022 to over 2 hours today, according to Customs and Border Protection data. Commercial truckers are choosing other crossings, costing Douglas millions in economic activity. When crossing takes longer than the drive to Nogales, businesses relocate. Retail losses mount as Mexican shoppers stay home. G Street, once lined with stores catering to cross-border customers, shows 46% vacancy rates. The historic Gadsden Hotel cut staff by 30% as business travelers avoid the delays and uncertainty. Immigration policy changes create constant economic uncertainty. Businesses can't plan investments when regulations shift unpredictably. The very policies meant to secure the border are killing the legitimate economy that made border communities viable. Douglas represents the broader challenge facing Arizona's economy as traditional industries collapse and geographic advantages disappear. These 10 cities show how quickly prosperity can turn to decay when the foundation shifts beneath entire communities.